this time, Martin Odegaard.
Zinchenko from Ketia, it's in, it's 4. Martinelli tiptoeing in. Predatory, perfect. There is a gorgeous arrogance about Arsenal now.
It really is. They are enjoying every second of this.
Hello and welcome to not another Arsenal podcast, aka the Lucas Podolski of Arsenal podcast, the Carl Jenkinson of Arsenal podcast. There you go. My name is Mike Hers. We don't do this enough for me to remember, so I don't want to hear it, guys. My name is Mike Hers. That's where I was. We're going to talk about the Arsenal Champions League game, the quarterfinals against Real Madrid. Amazing, gentlemen. The atmosphere was just insane. The buildup was insane. Wasn't entirely sure how to feel about leading up to this because I've been having a lot of discussion whether we are still a big club. I was doing that, I'm dying thing and I hate everything. And I was going back and forth with my buddy Ryan, and my buddy Ryan has given me all these reasons why we're a big club. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to slap you down. I'm going to tell you why we're not a big club. Our fans is making too much of a fuss playing Real Madrid. Like the snob in me, if you will, I didn't like the whole, oh my God, we're playing Real Madrid. And you know what? I'm just a bitter man that forgot what the glory of Champions League football is. And some rival fans said this. I'm not going to even say this. It was my own words. Said football is back. It's almost like football needed a little cheerful moment, a little erratic football. It wasn't just programmed robotic moves, and we got some craziness that happened in the quarterfinals with Real Madrid. I don't think the most optimistic Madrid fans would have dreamed that it was going to be 3-0. But we're going to deep dive into that. Nobody's going to believe this, and Abreo's not in the live chat, so he's not going to call us out on this one. But this one's going to be short and sweet. We're going to try to keep it down to an hour or so because we all have crazy responsibilities early in the morning. Let's go. Chris, welcome back.
What's going on, Mikey? I think we should petition to change the name of our podcast to the Declan Rice of Arsenal podcast, to be honest, after that display. Although we're probably going to have to get a little bit more regular and a bit more predictable if we're going to do that. But boy, what a game, guys. I didn't get to watch it live. I was watching it a bit delayed because I had these pesky things called responsibilities, and I was media blackout. So I was watching it. I didn't know the end, and it was tied at halftime, and I'm like, oh boy, we can't go back to the Bernabeu, at 0-0, even only one goal up, and then all of a sudden Declan Rice decided just to show up and show us why he's worth that 105 million. Holy shit, what a game!
Yeah, Kelly, sir, how are you feeling after that game?
Well, I mean, in spirit, I feel great. I mean, there was However, physically, I look and feel terrible. I can promise you, I didn't go on like a 1 week, like a 2-day Coke binge to celebrate this. I have terrible seasonal allergies, and so I haven't slept in like 2 or 3 days. And so I'm literally, instead of my normal 4 fingers of rum that I like to use as my medicine for the podcast, I'm doing water with honey and cough drops like an old lady. But the important thing is I'm here, and I was not going to miss this opportunity to talk about Declan Rice again. Like you guys are talking about, I think the kind of magic of Declan Rice and that kind of unexpected result got everybody, all the English media, kind of on side. And the fact that it was Rice and Lewis Skelly were kind of the two big catalysts. I think for the first time in a very, very long time, it feels like everybody's on side with Arsenal, and in the kind of like English football zeitgeist, which is pretty cool. I think a lot of people did their grand tour of podcasts and content, like the old Barney Gumble, like hook it to my veins moment, where instead of a thing of duff, it's just every piece of football content that's just slobbering about how great Arsenal is and what a shock result is. I went around there, and it's really kind of a fun thing. It's like, man, this is why Liverpool fans are such pricks if they've been getting this for all year. I get it. I kind of see how the greater football world leads you to this place, because holy shit, I don't play for Arsenal, but boy, was I apple cheeked and happy listening to all those podcasts of people saying nice things about the Arsenal.
Absolutely love it. Yeah, we had a few funny tweets and comments that came from this game. I got to say, one was my timeline is crazy. Every English fan is rooting for Real Madrid, and every Spanish fan is rooting for Arsenal. And it's just that you always have those hate watches going on. It's absolutely amazing. And now that the majority are we the only English team? We are the only English team in
no,
the
Aston Villa is still remaining.
Villa
for 90 more minutes.
They would have done such a good job if all things considered, if they managed to escape visiting PSG 2-1. If I'm not mistaken, the third goal for PSG landed in like the 90+ minute. It was injury match, right? Yep. And just that 2-goal buffer, man. It's just so difficult to come back. I know they're playing at home, but I got to tell you, my unpopular opinion amongst everybody here is I think Unai Emery, for better or for worse, he's kind of a manager that manages to do knockout stages very well.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's like an art to that specifically. I don't know if it's a mental thing. I don't know how you set people up, but like knockout tournaments, like he does fairly well a lot, along with, Mourinho. But Prime Mourinho also did it in the league. Emery would be like, hey, I'm with Sevilla. I'm just going to fucking win the Euro League 3 years in a row or some shit, which is, I find pretty amazing. And I thought 2-1 would have been a spectacular result for them, all things considered. 2-0, they could probably do it at home, but I got to tell you guys, and we'll talk about this a little bit, but speaking about like our future potential, I'm going to say potential. I don't want to jinx it. Future teams that we might play. PSG is looking night and day compared to the team that we played in the first round, which was like week 7, 8, whatever it was. So interesting to see what the future holds, but 3-0, feeling really confident. Go for it, Kelly.
Yeah, they actually their current iteration kind of mimics what Arsenal do more. Again, when we played them, they were pretty messy and everything still. Like this game against Villa was classic Unai ball though. So PSG had 2/3 of the possession. They had 30 shot attempts to 6 for Villa, 11 shots on target versus 2. Like Villa didn't even commit that many fouls. It was Unai ball. It was that kind of suffer ball where you just sit back in a hole and try to take one of your couple of chances and go from there. And I mean, PSG just snuffed them out. It wasn't. I mean, they got the goal, and then after that, you got to look at it this way too. I think for Villa's chances, like they got their goal, and then Doué immediately scored, and then I mean they were outscored. They scored a goal, and then they gave up 3 goals after that, and basically, I don't think they got another shot on goal the rest of the match after they scored. So like, I think they're reaching the edges of what that squad can do. I mean, you never know. There could be a big night at Villa Park, but I mean, it seems very unlikely given PSG's basically the informed team in Europe now. I think they've won Ligue 1 now officially too, again. So they can basically rest in all their domestic fixtures. Yeah. So yeah, they look a different thing. I mean, I don't think Kvaratskhelia was there when we played them before. I think he came over from Napoli. In January,
right? Yeah,
mid-January. So
he performed not only superb in this game, but I did something that I rarely do, and I participated in hate watching the Liverpool PSG tie, and I was so impressed with both of their wingers. They seem to me like throwback wingers from like the 90s, where like they don't run to the byline just to pass it backwards. They just consistently take players on, and they have that explosiveness on both sides, and just. I get hate watching Liverpool, but I got to get a good look at this new PSG version, and I don't know. I thought both of them were absolutely amazing. So, man, tough work for Timber and Miles Skelly if he does participate in playing that game, and we do make it through. But they look dangerous.
Well, and they've got Barcola and Doué, who don't often start for them, that can also come in and do a real good job. So they've got wingers for days.
What is funny though is that like even with our current like second choice, you're kind of like step down to your back line. Basically, if you look at a group of attackers collectively, maybe the only better group of attackers is for Real Madrid. And what did we just do to them? So it's kind of it's an interesting, and this is what we call a transition in the business too. It's an interesting transition as to how would we be able to handle them in the same way that we handled Madrid in the first leg. Speaking of which,
Speaking of which, let's talk about the game. I was literally, I have the logo on my phone to prove it. I'm like half contemplating of changing the name to the Mostly Arsenal podcast, just to
I like that.
because it's mostly Arsenal and we do waffle a fuckload, and it's something literally. I put in our logo and I said, "Hey, ChatGPT, can you actually change this for a podcast that's going to be named the Mostly Arsenal podcast?" And it did a perfect rendition. And I was like, "I'm going to run this by the guys." By the way, this is me running it by the guys right now, live for all the viewers.
Yeah, do we want to vote?
If you want to vote, yeah. Hey, live chat, let us know what you guys think about this. But backtrack and bring us down just slightly a little bit, Chris, because let me be the downer for the night. I do want to say something that I thought was really odd, and Arteta's never going to admit this publicly, and his response most likely is always going to be, "I picked the team that I thought could win this game." But this might be the first time in his 5 years, 6 years now, that he chose to play a significantly weaker team versus Everton than the one that we saw play versus Real Madrid. And look, I don't blame him one bit. And sure, maybe it's because of the cushion that Liverpool has at the top of the table versus us. When he's thinking to himself, maybe coming to the realization internally, not making this public statement saying, "Hey, we probably ain't going to catch this team, and I'm gonna make some changes." And the fact that Saka was already a given, he was working in minutes, trying to get up to the 90th minute or be able to start this game. So I think they handled that brilliantly. But when we saw Jorginho for the first time in a very long time, Merino was back in the
Sterling,
in midfield. We saw Raheem flipping Sterling. I mean, that was a little bit of a clear indication. We don't have to deep dive too much on the Everton thing. It was just a point that I wanted to make. But I got to tell you, the Kivior starting, it should not have been too much of a surprise to me in the sense that we didn't see Ben White versus Everton, and he has like a knock, if I'm not mistaken. But if we're going to dissect a little bit of a performance, or let's dissect the starting lineup, if you will, for me, Kivior is the biggest one. Were you at all concerned in like a major way? We all know he's not Gabriel, but he's done good things in the past. He's also done some silly things in the past. How are you feeling about that back line that we presented?
I think this gives us a really good insight into maybe what we've known all along about Arteta, but his management philosophy, and this is points been made before on other podcasts, but I think he's very much a next guy up kind of manager, where he's got a kind of a hierarchy, if you will, where he's got guys that he would prefer to play, but when they're not available, it's the next guy on the list that comes in and does the job and has the faith of the manager. And I think that's a really good way of keeping guys on side, especially if you think about a guy like Kivior, who is no greater than second or third choice, probably third choice in any one position. Normally, I think Calafiori might even have been the starter behind Gabriel if he had been fit, but he wasn't. And so instead of doing the whole thing where you move a bunch of guys around who are maybe not playing in their best positions, just to satisfy kind of like your best defensive four, if you will, but three of the four are not playing in their best position, and the partnerships are ruined, and guys don't really know the other guys' mentalities and behaviors and where they want to stand and where they're going to go. He said, I'm going to keep the back four consistent as much as I can. So I'm going to play guys that are used to playing in the positions that they're used to. So no Saliba playing left center back. We're going to keep him right center back. Play Timber at right back. He knows what he's doing there. There's a really good vibe going on the right-hand side. Play Lewis Skelly at left back. He's doing a real good job there. And then let's just swap out one guy for one guy. The guy who's injured for the next guy up who's fit. And I think that's what he did. And I think it worked beautifully, because now what do we have? We've got a guy in Kivior who is pumped full of confidence because he had a really quite good game against Real Madrid of all teams at the Emirates. And if we need him to do a job at the Bernabeu next week, you know what? He's going to have every reason to believe that he can do the same job next week to close out the tie. So it's a really good stroke of man management on Arteta's part. And I think he's shown us that, especially as he's gotten more experienced in this post at Arsenal, that it's maybe better to go with a guy that perhaps you don't have as much faith in, because it allows the structure, it allows what you are confident in to remain the same. And it allows the guys who know the job that they're supposed to do to not have to be put in positions where maybe they're a little bit less sure. Maybe they're a little less confident. Maybe they're a little less comfortable with the guy that's standing next to him. And, he tweaked a few things. He had Rice playing a bit deeper to cover for that left-hand side in case, Kivior struggled. I thought we played a bit more conservatively to allow certain players to kind of feel the game and not get overawed by the occasion. And, our buildup was quite slow and ponderous in the first half. But I think in part that was on purpose by Arteta, and part of that was the team just trying to feel out the opposition and vice versa. And I think it worked really well in a guy like Kivior's favor, where he just needed to feel his way into the game. And once he did, I thought he played really well.
There we go. We want to get a hold of the second part of that left-hand side of our defense, and Miles Lewis-Skelly. The right side was established. The experiment, if you want to call it that, was Kivior not having played an abundance of minutes leading up to this game and just being ready. And I'm sure that is all the brownie points that you need with Arteta. He's all about being ready when presented with the opportunity. Miles Lewis-Skelly, he's been heavily involved in the trajectory of his career is fairly insane, because I'm sure, and even Arteta said this, nobody was expecting him nor Waneri to get the amount of minutes that they're playing right now. But I just think at being his age, 18, not expecting to start playing, traditionally played in the midfield, converted to left back, and you're starting at home versus Real freaking Madrid, versus one of the notoriously hardest front lines to play against. And he managed to do just fantastic. And he added on the final third, and we will discuss that as well. But just defensively, such a mature head on this kid. It's just absolutely amazing, Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, what's amazing about Skelly is, I think, wasn't this like his second or his 22nd first team appearance or something insane like that? He's only been
probably
involved.
Even less than that. Yeah,
he's only been involved in the Arsenal first team for like less than 6 months, and I mean, during that time, it's been really well covered that part of the reason, I mean, he has immense talent, but like his brain is basically like his biggest asset, right? How he's able to think into different positions, and how they laid all his family and his support staff and Haaland have laid all this groundwork for him to be able to kind of build up. And so that he was so close to the surface that when it was his time, he was able to just take it and go. But what is really interesting is that like he does what he does, like he ends up being this amalgamation of like in the final third and ball progression, he's like he passes like Zinchenko, and then when he's defending out on the touch line, he's defending like any one of our shutdown fullbacks, right? He's out there kind of tackling, maybe not as strongly as Tomiyasu, but has that presence about him. And then he's carrying into the midfield like Calafiori would. And so you end up for development, you end up having a person that does this complex left back role in a way that basically the other three options can do one peg of that really well, but struggle on the other ones, right? Or inconsistent in the other ones. And all of a sudden, this kid who has less than 24 first-team appearances under his belt, who's 18 years old, can come in and do all of it basically immediately. It's really, really wild, and it ends up being a little bit of luck, right? So there's, to some degree, it's like right place, right time, even so with somebody with immense talent. But it's just amazing that, and I think I sent it to one of our groups during the match that like I think like Skelly came in and was like playing, I think they shifted him. He was playing more of a central midfield role to shut down the match. And it's like, think about that as an 18-year-old against Real Madrid in the Champions League quarterfinals. He's the one that you leave on the pitch and then change his job around to match the game state. And like his stat line is one of those things too, that it's like those like sofa score stat lines or that go out. It's just absurd where he's like 43 of 45 passing. He won all of his ground duels, all of his aerial duels, had an assist, had like double-digit final third entries, and like it's some of this stuff is just like unbelievable that somebody of that age can do that. And again, the kind of when you're doing the run around and doing all the media blitz, like there's legitimate love for him everywhere, and there's almost like pressure back at the PGMOL and back at the FA where it's like, or at the English League where it's like, you guys are giving, look at how great this guy is. Everybody in the Europe is appreciating this player. Like, why are you treating him like shit? I hope, like, multiple people are like, I really hope the narrative about him changes because it doesn't make any sense given his talent level. And a lot of these pundits are already penciling him in to be the left back for the next decade for the English national team, which is like, I don't know. It's really interesting, but it almost makes you a little bit suspicious of stuff because like nobody really likes Arsenal that much. And we tend to be a club that's kind of looked down upon as like dandies or like, again, the stay humble, like that whole fucking thing. So his evolution, his quick evolution, the fact that he solves all these problems at the same time is pretty remarkable, one. And two, the quick turn to which the greater, again, English media ecosystem and other podcasts and other fans of other Premier League clubs have realized how talented he is and how good he is. And how that's flipped in such a short period of time is pretty wild. But I think it's to our advantage, though, both domestically going forward and in Europe, because you want him to be one of those guys, just like Timber on the other side. You want to be the like remember like the first tunnel pick when when we weren't assholes anymore, like last season when our defense started getting really good, and it was just it was like what Saliba, Gabriel, Ben White, and Raya were like staring back across in the tunnel and like very, very serious. I feel like that's kind of we're down to our like nominally second string options to start the thing, but you'd still no matter who you are, whether you're Real Madrid or elsewhere, you're looking across it. It's like, oh, fuck, look at all these. Like, where are we going to get through? That exactly that pick, sure. So it's that, but the faces have changed, but the attitude and aura seem to stay the same.
The attitude, yes, for sure.
Well, and that's for me, I think the most impressive thing in his game is he had the third most touches in the game, and he was taking the ball in some really congested areas. In places where if he loses the ball, Real Madrid is going to kill you on the counter because they've got pace for days. They've got technical midfielders who can get the ball into dangerous spots. And he did not shy away from getting on the ball. He didn't lose the ball. He didn't lose any of his duels. To have that kind of charisma, that kind of, to use the word arrogance or confidence, to do that against Real Madrid in the Champions League at home, 18 years old, less than 6 months in the first team, is absolutely remarkable. And the fact that there is a entire country and media who are trying to tear him down into some country, to your point, Kelly, is absurd.
Yeah, I mean, I said I was going to bring up the Everton game, but because we're discussing it and you mentioned the tearing him down thing, he does. I don't know if he's going to ever be able to shake it because I think the whole celebrating the stay humble thing. What really fucks with me a lot is that nobody takes into consideration the lack of respect, just as a human being and a shithead Haaland was towards him. And so for him to sit on that, wait patiently, have a massive moment in at Arsenal, at the Emirates, when they're smashing City, and he celebrates it, and it just turns into, oh my God, I can't believe he did that. It's just, I remember seeing a clip of like Jimmy Carragher and he just washed it away. He's like, yeah, I know that Haaland did it first, but I don't care. He's won stuff. And I'm like, dude, how do you contextualize that and just simply hand wave it and say, you don't care? It's just amazing. It's just, I don't know why, but I'm hoping that it's changing. That's my son screaming for me. I'm hoping it changes because that penalty that happened versus Everton is just absolutely insane. Just like
Miles Lewis Skelly is on the other side of that door.
Absolutely.
Like the child.
I'm going to pause myself for 1 second because I had one more point to make. 1 second, guys.
This is real life, everybody. This is what we do.
This is, if you guys ever wonder why we can't podcast consistently, there you go. There's one guy, George, by the way. He always like makes reference about like the sweet tones of children screaming in the background. Mm-hmm. That one right there, that presentation from Ian and his big brother Michael trying to calm him down. Why Dad podcast.
Well, Mike hasn't told. What Mike hasn't told you guys is that there's 18 kids behind that door that he is locked out, and he's just trying to get a podcast in for an hour. I mean, you can imagine
That's
how
all,
hard
man.
it is for him to step away.
Hey, I'm married, so what else am I going to try to get in for an hour off on a podcast? Alan H says Mikey's son is rewatching the Rice free kicks and celebrating that.
That's
We
right.
love that.
Beauty.
The maturity point that I wanted to make about MLS was there was a little clip right there where he was desperately, while he had been shifted to midfield, asking for the ball from like Udegaard, and Udegaard opted to play to his right, not to his left, and you could just see Skelly just turn around like, what the fuck? I was right open. Like, so things like that, it's awesome. At 18, breathing that amount of confidence in a game of this magnitude, it's absolutely amazing. All right, let's move a little bit forward to our midfield. Actually, let's talk a little bit about the first half, if you will. I am frustrated at the end of the first half, and I knew, by the way, Chris, I knew that you were in a media blackout. Somebody was even tweeting, asking about you, and I'm like, I haven't seen him all day in like 3 groups and text messages. I guarantee you his phone is on 10 types of silent. He doesn't want to talk to anybody right now that could spoil this. So I knew you were going to enjoy this, but the first half, we got the lion's share of the good attacks, I believe. I know Mbappe had a breakaway in which he had a shot Raya saved. It wasn't the cleanest of finishes, but it was a nice stop from Raya. But we had 2, if not 3, if I'm not mistaken. Bukayo Saka made it all the way down to the byline, and he crosses, and the ball just swicks by the entire goal twice. And at this time, I start tweeting, it would be really fucking nice if we had a player with, now hear me out, a striker's instinct. For the life of me, I don't know how you are an Arsenal player and a red jersey on, and you see Saka taking on a player, going to the byline. What do you expect him to do? Why is there not somebody at the back post? Now, I was losing my shit over this. 45 minutes in, we all know how the game played out, but overall, I mean, I was impressed, Chris, with I'm going to say the lack of respect or the sense of belonging, because I kind of was expecting us to have to grow into this tie, understanding that it was Madrid, understanding everything, but like, it's kind of like Arteta fucking gave them a team talk and said, no, fuck those guys. They're not better than you. They're not above you. Who gives a shit about their history? We're at home. We need to go prove something. And I just thought from the get, we dominated the majority of that first half, in my opinion. And the first half left me incredibly frustrated because I thought Bukayo Saka, we only had him a limited amount of time. And it was very frustrating to me to see him put these crosses in and nobody there. So I guess thoughts on our attack and thoughts on Merino as number 9, if you will, having started this game in that position versus like Trossard, for example.
I like your point about we didn't look overawed by the occasion, because I think that's been a really big growing point of growth for the club. If you think about even just a couple years back, how difficult it was for us to win at Old Trafford, for example, where we would seemingly play the badge as opposed to the team. And we all knew that we were a better team, but for some reason we would play the badge. We would play the history. We would play the ghost of players past as opposed to the actual players of the present. And I think recent results have shown that we're not overawed by anybody. If we can, not lose the top 6 for however long it's been since we last lost the top 6, surely we can go in and not be, not be completely broken by the aura, by the mystique, by the legend of Real Madrid in the Champions League tie, especially at home. And I think we all moaned the fact that we had to play Real Madrid at home in the first tie. But looking backwards in retrospect, I think maybe that was a blessing in disguise, because I think it may have been easy for us to bend and fold at the Bernabeu in the first leg, because they would have had the Bernabeu crowd. We would have maybe not had the opportunity to get our confidence up to kind of play into the match, to have the confidence we had in this. But I think the environment that the fans created, I think all the pre-match interviews that Arteta gave about needing the fans to get on side. I'm sure Arteta had a lot to do in the days leading up to it about what you said, Mike, around, we're as everybody as good as Real Madrid. Play as if you are, in the first leg. And we didn't look scared. Now, I said earlier, I think we did play a little bit cautiously in the first half because I think both sides were feeling each other out. I think part of it was maybe to allow some players to kind of grow into the game, like a Kivior, for example. But, talking about your question about whether or not Marino was a good pick in the side. Yeah, I mean, look at his goal scoring output. He's a central midfielder playing striker, and he has 7 or 8 goals for us now playing this role in all competitions. He has, while he doesn't make the runs that a traditional number 9 would make, Kai Havertz doesn't do that either. I think Mikel Merino plays a lot like Kai Havertz. He's dropping deep. He maybe doesn't make the channel runs that Kai Havertz does, but he drops deep. He connects play. He gets on the end of cross balls. I think he actually might have a better shot on him than Kai Havertz, at least more consistent, as shown by the third goal in the game. I think he's shown that while he's not our striker of the future, he's not even really meant to be our striker of the present. He is serviceable, and he's doing the things that we need him to do from the way that we have typically deployed a number 9 in this squad. We don't need him to be Erling Haaland. We don't need him to be an all-action number 9 because we tend to attack down the wings. What we do need him to do is create overloads in the center of the pitch. We do need him to pop up in different spaces. We do need him to win duels when we're out of possession. And we do need him to find little pockets of space in the penalty box, which he did again on this beautiful goal that he had. And he's doing that. And I think it's a credit to him and a credit to Arteta for finding that talent, finding enough talent in what he does to deploy him in that place.
It's figuring out the things that he can do, and figuring out how best to use that skill set and leave everything in place. So we talked about that with the Kivior situation too. That's part of the elegant solution that is Marino there, right? Is that everything else kind of stays the same, and you can repeat your play patterns, and you can do that. And basically, Marino's job is to press to the degree that he can. Again, win aerials and support in midfield, which he does naturally anyway. That's his primary position. But what I didn't know that he could do, and what Arteta has unlocked, or what's Marino's unlocked in himself, is can really, really get clean contact and find a way to get his shot off in the box with really little backlift. We basically don't have any strikers that can do that. Like I would argue, and I think somebody just put in the chat, like it's up further now, but like he's better in front of goal at ball striking and getting a shot off quickly and accurately than Kai or Gabriel Jesus are. And so to what degree does the stuff that he's not able to do, how is it offset by a guy who can just like whack the fucking ball? Like he found space against Real Madrid and had like 4 really, really high level shots in the box. And like, if not for Thibaut Courtois and some heroic goal line clearances, like he might have had a couple of goals playing at center forward against Real Madrid in the Champions League. So it's like, but that's also like, and I don't want to future, like I need this podcast to be an hour so I don't die or start like hacking up on my computer. But like, again, the notion that as we look forward to the summer, the notion that we can't carry a guy who's just, I think we should be focused on finding a guy who can score goals. That's what we're missing. And our game, as Elliot from Yankee Gunner calls it, the play model, or the play or the game model. Mm-hmm. And the game model will produce chances. Just get somebody in there who can kick the fucking ball in the goal. Like that's really what it is. That's what's missing. And all the rest of this other stuff is, I mean, if we can go and make a Champions League push and Mikel Merino can score double-digit goals, which he's well on track to, domestic, like in 15 matches as a center forward, like it's probably not Mikel Merino being a great center forward, and it's like he's done a reverse Joel Winton, went from being a terrible center forward to being like a oddly good holding midfielder / like rampaging 8. Like it probably is less about that and more that we just had a guy who is not shot shy and is good at making contact with the ball and just steering it on goal. And there's finally somebody who can kind of do that. I think you just looking forward, you just find the most reliable finisher and striker of the ball and converter of chances you can and drop them in there and just do all the rest of it the same. And you make sure that they can run enough to press some and they can hold the ball up some. And as long as they do a reasonable amount of off-ball work, your job, much like when Holland went to City, your job is to score the goals. We have everybody else. The entire system is set up to fall back in defensive shape, retain, progress, tackle, press, do all that stuff. Your job is to kick the fucking ball in the net. So we need to go and find to the degree that any of those people are available and within our whatever they're going to spend, go and do that. And then I think the results will be quite good. And then if it doesn't work out, you can always put Miguel Marino there and watch him score 20 goals next year as a center forward somehow.
And he could have easily had more than one goal in this game. If you guys remember correctly, he had 2 goals that were blocked on the goal line. I think they were both with his left foot as well, in addition to the goal he actually scored with his left foot. Is he a lefty or righty? He's a righty, right?
I think he's a left-footed.
Is he a left footer?
Yeah.
Well, in any case, I mean, both of those balls that he didn't score were struck unbelievably. One was, I think, a side volley. The other one was a straight volley, half volley, and both were pummeled. And it took I think it took an Alaba clearance off the line, the first one, and a really well saved by Courtois on the second one to keep him out. But man, you're right. He can strike a ball. And I think you're right, Kelly. He's maybe the best ball striker, maybe outside of Declan Rice.
It's Rice, Saka, and probably Marino. Like, I mean, being honest,
he's up there near the top for sure, which I would not have seen coming at the beginning of the season when we bought him.
Yeah, like it is one of those things that's truly a weird core, and it's like the season will always be remembered for this. It's going to be one of those that we'll look back and the fullness of time, it'll either be like, holy shit, that was a weird season when this stuff happened, or it's going to be like, this was the start of something really interesting. But like also in football, like you find solutions. And here's another thing. Like, I know that it's not flashy and it's not something we appreciate when he's like sloughing around the midfield and not playing particularly well. When you recruit, and part of the attraction for this guy, and apparently what he does for the Spanish national team, is he's a great team player. He'll do whatever you ask him to do. He can come off the bench. He can start. He speaks all the languages. He has good relationships with everybody. He has a versatile skill. Like, that's why he keeps playing, right? And if you don't recruit a guy who, if you bring a guy in, he's going to sit and fucking pout and not want to do this role because he's like, I'm a central midfielder. I'm not going to run my hole off to do this. Like, fuck this shit. Like, play one of the forwards there. If that was his attitude, he wouldn't be playing now. And like, look at how it took a long time to chase him, and we paid a lot of money for him. But like, you have to say that he's paying back the transfer fee and then some now. Like, if he's somebody who can actually be a plausible third choice center forward, like, that's going to cost $30 million. So like, he kind of, in the same way that Kai Havertz like indirectly solved the striker problem by not being able to play left 8 and just ended up being like a really weird advanced midfielder striker hybrid. That's the best striker at our club when fit. Like, Marino's kind of done the same thing. So like, but I don't know. I suppose that's maybe the insurance for buying high character players with versatile skill sets, because if they don't work one place, you can try them somewhere else. It's not just it's not like Antony, right? Like, you buy Antony for $90 million, and unless he's a good right winger, like, you might as well throw him on a fucking garbage heap because he can't do anything else besides like be a tricky right winger. He has nothing else to offer. And so getting positional versatility, and again, the same way too, that like Miles, why is he like, because he can do a bunch of different stuff. He can solve 80 problems on the pitch, and he can do a bunch of different things. So you just play him at a position you need him in, and then he solves the problems in that area of the pitch. And it seems like Marino is kind of doing that in a originally in kind of a weird way, but now in a pretty standard, like, big, lumpy, not so fast number 9 way, like a Chris Wood way, is kind of like what he's doing for us. So we'll fucking take it. Why not? It's just weird.
We're going to take it. Chris, we're going to just talk about the Medina goal since we're focusing about it. I'm going to leave the impending transfer question that I'm going to ask, because we're getting linked so much to the striker. what happened to two of our old left eights, Merino and Kai, who are now strikers apparently. It's Merino's not a full-time striker, Kai is, but yeah. I'm generally curious what happens to their allocated minutes since Declan Rice has such a hole on that left eight. All rumors indicate that we're gonna buy a 6. I'm generally curious about the squad composition and where else they could play, but we're going to talk about the Merino goal right now, Chris, before we move on to Declan Rice, because we've been chatting him up a little. I copied and pasted a tweet that I saw on Twitter today that I just thought it was funny. And this was from a random Manchester City fan. This wasn't an Arsenal fan bigging up Arteta, but the tweet, the X, the Z, however you want to name that nowadays, is Merino being the most on-form striker in England is killing me, man. This Arteta guy is a psycho. And I just thought that was funny coming from a Manchester City fan because, like, we're chatting Merino up 8 goals now, the most informed striker officially in England. What the actual fuck? And here he is. He bangs in. Chris, we're gonna go Quentin Tarantino. We're gonna go in reverse. He bangs in the 3rd goal of the night, 79th, 80th minute, more or less, to kill off the game. After that, it was a lot of cruising and a lot of I'm not gonna say stalling, but we had the ball. Carlo Ancelotti himself said that he didn't know what the shit happened the last 30 minutes. He was baffled by the team's performance. He said that the team looked weak and broken mentally and physically, and he was just not expecting this performance from Arsenal. Neither was his players. So I just want to point out one thing, and one thing only on the Merino goal before you take it away, is the passive play that happened prior to the goal was us passing the ball around Madrid, left, right, and center through the entire pitch for a minute, 10 seconds. And I just thought, that speaks a lot to our team because we literally had them on the ropes even at 2-0. Go for it, Chris.
Yeah, and it was, I think, Declan Rice's 40-yard carry that really got us into their final third with some overloads on the left-hand side that I think created the space for that pass into Merino to happen. But, yeah, I mean, I think Ancelotti just came up against a better manager. I don't know what else to say about it, Mike. I mean, I know you think that Ancelotti. I see you. I'm just giving you shit because I know you love Ancelotti, but
I do.
I do think we had a game plan. I couldn't tell you the subtleties of why it worked better than what we all anticipated it would, and why Real Madrid were so flustered by it. I think some of it comes down to a sheer act of individual brilliance on Declan Rice's part on those free kicks, but also to your point, Mike, we had a couple of passages in this game where Real Madrid couldn't get close to us. I mean, we passed it around, then we were olaying in the 80th minute or whatever it was against Real Madrid in the Champions League. You don't often see that or hear that. I just think we played our game. I think we played with confidence. I think we, again, to the point earlier, we weren't overawed by the occasion. And I think our big game players played really well. Declan Rice being one of them. On that 3rd goal, the Mikel Merino goal, Declan Rice takes that dribble about 40 yards, gets double teamed, passes it off, I believe, to Trossard. Trossard plays around with it a little bit, gets to Miles Lewis-Skelly on the edge of the box. And then what I think was actually really well done by Merino is not the finish necessarily, although that was really good. It was his movement in the box that looked a lot like a number 9's, where he could have easily gotten in the mixer with 4 other defenders around the 6-yard box. And what he does is he just subtly pulls himself out from the chaos, out from the traffic, so to speak, and he kind of plants himself right at the edge of the box where there's a pocket of space, and Lewis Skelly finds it, and I think gives him the perfectly weighted pass for him to hit it off his left foot. And I think there were so many things that were done really well that I think perhaps are easy to go unnoticed. That happens before Merino actually ever touches the ball in that passage of play. So I was happy with the 2-0, to be honest. Up until that point, I thought anything above 2-0 was going to be just cherry on top. I wasn't expecting it. But when that happened, I was like, it's our day. Like, we didn't have that many shots on goal, but whatever shots on goal we put on, besides the goal line clearances, were going in the back of the net. I think that's been that's not happened as often as we would have wanted to this season. I think there's been a lot of games we've lost, not because we haven't dominated the game, but because when we got to the final third, we haven't put the ball in the back of the net, or at least put it on frame. And I think in this game, the difference was we put it on frame more often than not, and more often than not, we scored from that. So yeah, it's great goal, great team goal. A lot of great things happened individually, but collectively it made it all work.
Absolutely. Kind of capped on a great performance, ended up being a great performance for Merino. And I guess that's the value of a different type of striker, as frustrated I was with him in the first half. But now we're going to move on to essentially, the man of the match. Before I forget, chat, for those of you, I put a link in of Paddy Power, and it was just them making fun, pretending that it was Real Madrid issuing a statement about how they can't possibly recover after Arsenal fans started chanting, "Are you Tottenham in disguise?"
Amazing.
It's absolutely amazing. And it just came to my mind when Chris said that we were doing ole, ole. But dude, to top off a feel good night, just the crowd chanting, "Are you Tottenham in disguise?" was pretty flippin' epic. Now, Declan Rice.
They asked Ange about that in a press conference too.
Which, by the way, listen.
What a terrible thing to say.
Yeah, I gotta say, but come on, dude. Fuck, man.
Yeah, that was one of them where I laugh. It's like, God, you are a prick, though. It's like Ange's it's like, dude, I'm already like 14th. Can you
leave me alone?
Yeah.
Leave me out of a Champions League quarterfinal, please. What do you think about that? He's like, what do you want?
What do you?
God.
We're just concentrating, mate, on our next game.
Yes, that's like what it was like looking. It's like, was that Gunnar Block that asked that? Like, who would have asked that question? That's not an Arsenal plant.
Just doing it just on purpose to take the piss out of him. Now, Declan Rice, man of the match. Something I was going to bring up is, ironically, the last few months we've had not so much great creation in XG, and it could easily be explained away with the absence of Bukayo Saka, and everybody was kind of talking that we were relying on set piece. And there was a few games in which we're like, man, we're getting so many corners and we're not scoring. We got so many fouls and we're not scoring. And you start thinking our set piece magic kind of, withering, if you will. And then comes Declan Rice, man. The indication, if I'm not mistaken, was he was instructed to cross the ball. But he was also told, hey, do what feels good, essentially, by Saka. If you're feeling good about this shot, you take this shot. And he opted to have confidence in himself, and he decided to take the shot. It went right around the wall. I thought it was a beautiful thing that Roberto Carlos was there watching this game too, and you got bend it like Beckham, bend it like Roberto Carlos, and now you officially have bend it like Declan Rice, because my goodness, the bend on that shot was just absolutely amazing, and that was the first of two, Kelly. So talk to us a little bit about the man of the match, Declan Rice.
I mean, there's all the Arteta out accounts and the Arsenal suck accounts, like your people. The only thing that they could say about this is that Odegaard should be sold immediately and stripped of the captaincy because Rice is so good. And that something really transcendent happen when they through clenched teeth have to ignore Arteta and give him no credit for anything that happened in this match, and then begrudgingly give Declan Rice credit and then use his success to shit on Odegaard. But anyway, this is just I think it's pretty clear that Rice is a player with big shoulders in a lot of ways. He's not afraid. Again, stereotype, not afraid of the moment, but I think past not afraid is that he's very ready personally and professionally to do that. I think he came to Arsenal for this moment, for Champions League quarterfinal, best crowd in Emirates history, with the weight of that and wanting to take that moment. And I don't think just some people do that. And again, I think that he was really unfairly like chastised for not having a great match in whatever the Mickey Mouse Europa something final, which again, also great tweet. Whoever, like just a random Arsenal account after the second free kick in, he tweeted at the West Ham Central, have another 100 million, you fat cunt, which is absolutely hysterical.
Chris made sure to tag along on that one.
20,
I jumped in on that one. Believe
it's
me,
like 20,000 likes or something, where it's just like, just the pettiness level on that is absolutely spectacular. To like kick that guy, find him somewhere, and just kick him for the success. But I mean, some guys, the moment is just theirs, and he felt great. And there's even a tweet from somebody in my kind of Twitter sphere that's like, I think from Minnesota here in the U.S., and he like posted before the match, because he was there and was like, Declan Rice is on one today. Everything he's hitting is top corner in the warm-ups.
Yeah, I saw that one too.
And so that one got a bunch of traction. So I think big game players who are locked in and are feeling great, he just felt it today, and they get to have that responsibility, especially when you've never really taken direct free kicks for Arsenal or anybody before. I don't even think he took corners for West Ham. He was in there.
Yeah, this is the first time in his career he scores from not only a free kick, but his entire career. Yeah, because he never scored any at West Ham, and this is the fifth time a player scores 2 free kicks in the Champions League and the knockout rounds, if I'm not mistaken. I saw the stat floating around today.
I'm surprised it's that many. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's unreal, but like. And especially the free kick of that quality, the first one too. Again, the symmetry, and I think that's why this is one of those matches where it'll kind of live a long time in our memory, no matter what happens. The symmetry again of being able to pan directly to Roberto Carlos, who has the most famous curl around the wall on the right side, and again scoring. I can do a little bit on this two things, I guess. Saka's followed for both of the free kick goals. Right, so Saka dribbling infield and them not being able to live with them leads to the fouls and takes it from good positions. Again, the first one is amazing. Again, having the self-confidence to go in the bend that he has to get. People are starting to like complain about the wall and everything. It's like, you got to hit that so pure and get so much bend on it. Like I can hardly, if you want another guy on the wall, I guess, but like then Saka's just going to hit it over the wall. I don't know. It's incredibly difficult to go that wide. And then with the second one too, that was the one where I just lost it at my house with my toddler sitting on there, my 3-year-old sitting on the couch wondering what the hell was going on. Like you couldn't, there's a screenshot of the second free kick where it's like, it's almost touching both the post and the crossbar when it went in. I've never seen, Messi had one in the Copa America, I think, but that's the best. It's the best hit free kick I've ever seen. Like watching it live, I could not believe how hard he hit it with how much whip and where that was placed. It's almost you could almost not get up on a ladder and hold the ball in a better place for it to go through. It's absolutely unbelievable, and it's just great ball striking, great talent, and extreme confidence. And he just must be one of those guys where that heart must have been pumping about 4 times that minute to just calm down and hit that. And especially once you've already hit one, people are paying attention now. It's not sneaking up on him, and there's no fucking thing that he could do about it. There could have been 2 keepers in there and they wouldn't have got to it.
I mean, if he would have gotten the third in and around the box, I would put money on him getting a hat trick of free kick goals, because he was just feeling it. I can't believe how accurate both those balls were. I mean, he hits that second one an inch higher or an inch to the right, and it's hitting off either the crossbar or the post.
Literally an inch.
And same thing with the first one. He bends it. If that thing bends a foot later, or if it doesn't bend, if it bends an inch to the right, it's hitting the post and out. But it curls right inside of the.
You have to hit it so hard with so much whip, and it's so difficult to not have it balloon when you hit it that hard. That's the issue, to flatten it out like that.
Yeah,
it's like, it's not. Again, this is just like all us Sunday League 5 aside old fat guys, but like, it's not hard to hit a ball hard. It's not hard to hit it with accuracy, but not very hard. And it's not hard to curve a ball, but to hit it really, really hard with curve and hit it accurate like that is nearly impossible. And that's that's what makes, I mean, both of them so impressive that like to not hit it into fucking row Z when you're hitting it that hard and hitting it with that level of movement on it is really like next to impossible to do. And for him to have two of the best free kicks you ever seen an Arsenal shirt within like 12 minutes of each other in that environment, in that situation, to effectively like be the match winners. It's like that guy must be walking around like he's 10 feet tall right now. Like that's, I mean, it's going to be something that no matter what else he does in his career, that's going to be on the highlight reel. And it's going to be one of the main things on the highlight reel. He could win the World Cup for England, or like hopefully win big things for Arsenal, which feels more likely. And that's still those free kicks against Madrid are still going to be up there and any comp that you do of Declan Rice's career, which is amazing. And I think he kind of felt that in the moment. You sometimes I think when you're very, very good and you're on one, you feel like you can't do anything wrong, and you couldn't basically.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to round off the show. There was a comment that was made, and I know Chris wanted to chat this up a little bit. I saw a text message he sent earlier. That was the great. Oh, this is from BX Schooner 81. That was the greatest win at the Emirates for me. So, Chris, if you want to make it exclusively a Champions League thing, you can absolutely. But as far as the history of the Emirates, like how does this rank for you? Because it was pretty big occasion for a lot of people. It was a pretty big result for us. Fair play to a few Liverpool supporters that I communicate to with a lot on Twitter. And they reached out to me, just seeing all my tweets on their timeline, celebrating these goals. They actually reached out to say fair play. So we even got, from the less crazy supporters out there, even rival fans were kind of saying that this is one of the greatest. And and on that note, I forgot to mention this. The audacity of it happening back to back was insane, that I did something that I've never done before. And I came upon one of those rival fans react thing. And I watched it just because I wanted to see the reaction of the first goal versus the second goal.
Yeah.
And their negative holy shit was equal to every Arsenal's positive holy shit. And it's just, when it happened, you were just kind of like, there's no fucking way this is like, what is going on right now? So it was such a good occasion. So Chris, do you have any big Champions League or just overall occasions in Emirates that you enjoyed?
I think most people who are Arsenal fans, who have been a fan of the club for any length of time, is probably going to, if they're defining best as the most important or symbolically the most important game, I think they're going to say this one. And it's because of a couple of things. One is that we don't have a Champions League trophy. And until we get one, we are always going to have that disclaimer thrown at us by rival fans that we aren't a big club, or we aren't a giant club. We are an elite club. And so for us to take down the champions of Europe and the 15-time, I believe, Champions League winners, Real Madrid, in that kind of way, 3-0, with that kind of dominance, I think it's hard to deny that was symbolically the most important win at the Emirates. Now, if you're talking about most entertaining, if you're talking about most dominant, I could think of, the 5-1 earlier this year against Man City. I could think about 5-0 against Chelsea. I think last year we made a mockery of that, of our rivals. You can think about the 7-3 against Newcastle in 2012, 2013, which was a crazy game where there was like 8 goals scored in the second half. You could think about Henry's return, where he scores the goal against Leeds. You could probably come up with a number of other ones that I'm probably forgetting, but the fact that I'm forgetting them tells me that they're probably not as important as this game at the Emirates. And I think, to Kelly's point, this is a game we will be referring to, especially if we can somehow get the Champions League over the line this year. This will be a game that we'll talk about until we die. This will be a game we'll talk about 50 years later. It's that much of a watershed moment in Arsenal's history to beat Real Madrid at home. By the way, they haven't scored a goal against us in their history. We beat them
three games now, right, in the Champions League for us?
Yeah, we have 2 wins and a draw, and they haven't scored a goal against us. So, yeah, if we win this tie and we somehow manage to get the Champions League over the line, this will be one of the most important games in our history, no doubt.
I think with the attention that is put on the Champions League now too, it feels like it's one of those times where the whole world is watching and will continue to be watching now. And Madrid is the biggest club in the world. Real Madrid has the biggest reach. So if you're talking about, even again in the general opinion of worldwide football fans, beating them soundly in the first leg and getting through in the second leg at the Bernabeu would be status altering stuff for Arsenal. It truly would. And even if we don't get to the final, or even if we don't, I mean, if we have a tough go of it against PSG or whoever, like I think that there's mitigating factors, but I think it would be the biggest scout, and this is including beating, like winning the FA Cup. I mean, this would be the biggest scalp of Arteta's managerial career and give him a lot of burn, I think, around the general football ecosystem outside of the league owners, who, again, has he drowned in a pool in Malta yet?
That's pretty big, actually. That's a pretty big statement for you to make. Hey, you know what's funny? And I don't choose sides on this shit, but on the league gunner thing, I gotta say, again, I came past the clip of him. I clicked on it, and yeah, he has his takes and he has his own very unique, if you want to call it negative and shitty, perspective, feel free. He was celebrating the holy shit out of those goals. So, I mean, for what it's worth.
That's good to hear, at least.
Yeah, like, I'm just saying I think people confuses moaning with he doesn't want Arsenal to win. I think he might want Arsenal to win all the fucking time, and so
I think he also, it's hard when you're genuinely happy that your club wins unexpected. I think it's harder to keep the shtick up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's hard to keep the bit going when your true feelings come out. Like it's easier to do the clickbaity stuff when everything's kind of blah or mediocre. Mm-hmm. But when things are truly great and it touches you in a very meaningful way, even then, like the clicks and the bit isn't worth it. You want to celebrate it because you really feel it that way. So that's actually good to hear. And I use him as a punching bag a lot. He's no idea who I am, but he is good for a good kicking. But it's most important for him that his name is in people's mouths more than anything, I think.
Fair enough. I thought about a few moments just champ. One of them that I thought about was the 2-0 versus Milan, back when Milan was Milan. Mm-hmm. But that was into the San Siro. That was Fabregas that scored the first one, and I think it was like a Debayor, right? Another one that came to mind, I know this one is for sure at the Emirates, Barcelona 2-1. And I'm shocked that nobody brought up the love for Jack Wilshere on that one, because that was one of the games where he balled out of control versus Barcelona. I think that was the Percy red and the return leg, if I'm not mistaken, that year. Mm-hmm. Another one that I had in my mind that I thought was really epic, and for the life of me, I cannot remember if we were in Spain at Villarreal or at the Emirates, but the Mad James Jens penalty save from Riquelme in the semifinals versus Villarreal. I can't remember to save my life if that was in Spain at that game or if that was at the Emirates. And I see the color change in Chris's face, so I'm sure he's Google searching right now. But it's just something, that one I just remember like thinking, holy shit, he saved it. And at that time, Riquelme was just at another level. He was one hell of a footballer. He had just left Barcelona. Things didn't go very well for him, and he was just taking Villarreal to levels that they had never seen before. Chris, have you found the answer?
Are you talking about Lehman's save?
Yes.
It looks like it's away. But we're wearing those maroon jerseys.
Didn't clash.
We're wearing the maroon jerseys.
Okay. So potentially
I can't tell. It doesn't look like it's 2006. So we would have been, that was the last year at Highbury, yeah? So,
Here it is. 206, 89th minute, Champions League semifinal. It was the 89th minute too. Fuck, I forgot that detail. I tell you right now, I'm looking at that, and it was the foul was against Juanpi Sorin. Juanmi. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the. Hey, I'm mad about a replay right now. I'm thinking that's not a fucking penalty. Like that makes any difference at all. All right, we're gonna wrap it up. As we said, short and sweet. We wanted to talk about the Arsenal and of this massive game. Of course, we will hopefully be back next Tuesday, Wednesday, depending on what day the Real Madrid game is played and how our schedules are looking. We'll figure something out. Live chat, thank you so much for joining us. My gentleman up here to my left-hand side is Chris, a.k.a. West Suburban AFC. At the bottom, the man whom's... Oh, it was at Highbury. Thank you, Chris. The man whom's flowers seems to be his kryptonite, Kelly, a.k.a. South Metro AFC, surviving the allergies this season. Live chat, Twitter, everybody that tunes in. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much. Catch you all next time. Peace.
Right foot this time, Martin Odegaard.
Zinchenko from Ketia. It's in, it's 4. Martinelli tiptoeing in. Predatory, perfect. There is a gorgeous arrogance about Arsenal now.
It really is. They are enjoying every second of this.